Have you ever spent sleepless Friday nights endlessly packing for your weekend bike trail vacation? Can you remember rushing to finish because you waited too long to begin or were too scattered to identify exactly what items were necessary? Do you often feel overwhelmed by the thoughts of overpacking or even underpacking? If so, you may be a victim to poor planning. Fortunately, there are proven strategies I will share with you today to identify essential items necessary to allow you to gain control of your plan. When planning a bike trail vacation, including supplies and equipment is important for an enjoyable vacation. According to the National Household Travel Survey released in 2010, biking and walking formed 11.9% of all trips in the U.S. The information I will be sharing with you comes mostly from my own experiences. Today, I'd like to focus on 3 strategies: identify your bike trail, selecting related equipment, and essential supplies that will help you avoid feeling overwhelmed when preparing for your bike trail vacation. The first strategy is identifying your bike trail. Many bike trails run through campsites providing easy access. The Fontainebleau State Park provides camping located on the Tammany Trace Trail. Also, the Natchez Trace in Mississippi provides a bicycle-only campground. For example, if you choose the Natchez Trace bicycle-only campground, you can plan your trip to ride 30 to 60 miles each day. Another point is to map your bike trails so that you're familiar with your area. Mapping your trail can also be defined simply as using a GPS to gather information on your surroundings. Most trails are located in state parks that can provide maps and trail information. According to James P.'s article on bike trail safety, this will help you plan your ride. Also, your activities should be based upon the individual. Many bike trails vary depending upon your experience. Unexpected hills or rough terrain should be suited for your experience. According to Shannon Sukovay's Trail Bike Tips, the most important part of enjoying the ride is to know your limitations. Sukovay is a certified personal trainer with undergraduate studies in exercise physiology. She advises if you are just learning to choose a trail that's a bit wider. But if you're a professional, a narrow trail would be more suited for you. Bike trails vary in distance. You should consider the distance from your campsite location. According to the 2002 National Survey of Pedestrian and Bicyclist Attitudes and Behaviors, trips whose purpose was for recreation and exercise were an average of 5.6 miles. Now that we have discussed how to identify our bike trail, let me share 2 other strategies. The second strategy is to select your necessary equipment. When bike riding, the necessary equipment will provide safety. Prepare for a flat tire by having a can of Fix-A-Flat. Also have important tools packed for possible adjustments. In my own experience, a ratchet set or Allen wrenches works perfect. Also include a bike helmet so that you're safely prepared to bike ride. According to the Bicycle Helmet Safety Institute in the U.S., 630 cyclist deaths in 2009. Let's take a moment to look at our strategies so far. First, we have identified details to consider when selecting a bike trail. Second, we have identified our necessary equipment. We now are going to move on to selecting supplies to include in our final plans. The third strategy is to include essential supplies. When bike riding, you should always prepare for sun exposure. It is important to include sunscreen for a sunny day. When bike riding, it is very important to stay hydrated. According to Kate Duzen's article, 6 Ways to Stay Hydrated While Cycling, you should always make sure you are completely hydrated before your bike ride. She advises most cyclists need about 28 ounces per hour. You should pack enough water to last until you make it back to campsite. The American Council on Exercise recommends 7 to 10 ounces every 10 to 20 minutes of biking. You should refill your at water stations on bike trail. Duzen also advises that once you empty 1 bottle of water, begin looking for a place to refill it. In my own experience, stations are conveniently located on most bike trails. For example, the St. Tammany Trace or Natchez Trace can refill at all parkway stations along the trail, actually both of them. When bike riding, prepare for bugs, especially during peak hours. Also important is to make sure others can see you better. You should wear bright-colored, breathable clothing such as fluorescent shirts and gloves. Also include reflectors to reduce the risk of injury. I hope you have found my speech valuable. When planning for a bike trail vacation, including necessary supplies and equipment is essential for an overall enjoyable experience. Today I focused on 3 proven strategies: identify your bike trail, identify equipment, and selecting supplies that will help you better plan for your bike trail vacation. Remember all those overwhelmingly rush and high anxiety feelings I mentioned in the introduction of my speech? I hope the 3 strategies I provided to you today will help you to avoid those feelings. By identifying your bike trail and selecting all the necessary equipment and supplies,